Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do each and every week. Shout out to those of you who are watching on Spotify and YouTube. Man, check this out. I was thinking the other day, if I had to describe myself, I would probably say that I am a extroverted introvert, if that makes sense. It may not, but vibe with me for a second. So I was hanging out a couple of weeks ago at homecoming, my college homecoming at South Carolina State University. And I realized like one of the things that becomes very key and very evident, particularly as you get older, is knowing when you've had enough. And what I mean by that is whether it's a social scene or a party or just being around people, just knowing when it's time to say, you know what, I'm good. Case in point, and I mentioned on the home episode a couple of weeks ago, I went to an old school party. The old school party was hosted by DJ Shakim. Dougie Fresh was there and performed. The boy genius Kwame was there and performed as well. And I was at that party maybe for about an hour. And I was just like, okay, I'm good. And it kind of raised a few eyebrows when I broke out, but because the party really was starting to jump. I mean, it was jumping. And, you know, I was like, all right, I've had enough. And I think what happens is that, you know, your social battery can be drained at times. And I heard the homie Uncle Dolomite talk about having a drained social battery. And I think what happens is we all get to a point where like I don't want to use the word overwhelming, but like we've literally and figuratively had enough of whatever it was for that particular time or that particular instance. And in this instance, I've been at the party. It had been a long day because I traveled from Atlanta to Orangeburg, South Carolina. And it's a, I don't know, 3.5 hour drive. So it wasn't that bad, but you know, did a lot of stuff just to get out of Atlanta. And so, you know, you get on campus, hung out the whole nine. And I think, you know, I just got to a point where I was like, okay, this is good. Like my battery, in order for it to be where it needed to be, it was time for me to go. Like it was nothing else for me to do. Even though like I said, the night was still young, and it was a stark contrast to how I used to be when I was younger, a lot younger. And I literally would, I would usually try to be at the party by the time the party started jumping. And I definitely wasn't the first person to leave the party. I was usually one of the last to leave the party. I was going to be at the party, you know, until the lights came on or the DJ started packing stuff up. That was me. But not so much as about partying, but I think just knowing where your social battery is and where it is with whatever it is that you're doing. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's events, sometimes it's a little bit of everything. Sometimes it's your phone. And that's what I want to talk about on this episode. Just maintaining and knowing when your social battery is low. Like I said, just knowing when to call it quits. I have a very good mindset and idea of when that time comes, because again, in this particular scenario, I knew I had just about enough of the day. It was like, okay, you know, and it's not that I dislike being around people. I love being around people. I love being around my people. And in this particular case, I'm at homecoming, so I'm surrounded by my folk, people that I went to school with. And I was there with my brother and my sister-in-law. And so no, I was surrounded by love. So it wasn't, that wasn't the case. The case was like, okay, this is cool. I'm having a good time, but all right, it's time to bounce. Simply put, because I could feel my social battery draining in spite of the fact that, Dougie Fresh was about to perform and I'd seen Kwame and, the DJs were playing some great music or whatever. That was cool. But you also have to understand like where your battery is. And for some, the battery's higher. For some, the battery's lower. It really just depends on what it is that you're doing. And then sometimes your social battery can be drained by the cell phone. We consume a lot of stuff with our cell phones. We probably consume a lot more than we should with our cell phones. But I stand here, raise my hand, guilty as charged. We get a lot from the cell phone. Obviously, it's for most of us is our means of communication. A lot of us wake up and we roll over, and before we get out of bed, we check our phones. We check to see who texts. We check to see, what the weather's going to be. We check to see all of these things. And I've talked about that. But your phone battery, we're always careful as to how to maintain our phone battery, but we never really tap into how we should take care of our social battery, particularly when our social battery is low. And if you're not careful, you could walk around all day with a low social battery and find yourself getting upset with people or getting upset with yourself and not really knowing why. And I think we need to pay a little bit more attention to that. And that's something that I've tried to do here recently. But yeah, your social battery can be drained by your phone. I'm in several group chats. I'm always kicking it with my boys. I'm always kicking it with the homies. And so there's always constant buzzing or notifications that are going off. If I don't get the notification on my phone, I get the notification on my watch. If I don't get the notification on my watch, I get a notification on my MacBook. It's everywhere, right? But at some point, you have to tell yourself, all right, this is enough. I'm done. Like, and for some, it may be them turning their phone off. Now, I'm not going to turn my phone off, but you can silence your notifications. You can redirect your notifications. You can find different things to do with that so that you're not drained. I know, like, for me, in this day and time, I'm just like probably a lot of you. The topic of conversation is the person that is running the country, right? I try my best to stay informed, but not be informed, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is like, because of the nature of my job, like I have to deal with a political part of as far as the government is concerned. So I have to deal with that piece as well. So as far as work is concerned, so I'm it's something that I'm dealing with. So I don't necessarily. I'll put it like this: if I have to deal with Washington at work, I don't necessarily want to have to deal with Washington once I turn off my work computer. So no, it's that type of stuff. And so if something happens, if something's said, if something crazy goes on, automatically, I got group chats that'll automatically send notifications. Hey, did you see that he said this or he did this? And it's draining. It's draining because like you absorb that energy, positive or negative, you absorb it, right? And so for me, I try to make sure that I do what I can to block out of it as much as I can. You can't block it all out because again, you have to be informed. But at the same time, like I'm very careful about what I view and what I absorb. And so like there may be times in my group chats where I'm not responding to anything. I mean, the posts will come, and that same goes with these funny memes and stuff like that. But here's the thing, and we talked about this before, and it's worth repeating. I think most of us are on the same algorithm. At least me and my friends are. We're because here's the thing. I will get a meme from Dom. Shout out to Dom from the Raw Sex podcast. I'll get a meme from Dom on Monday about this little boy who fell down the steps, right? It'll be on Instagram. And either later Monday afternoon, I'll get that same meme or that same reel in 4 other group chats. And it's the same thing. So it's like, I'm not going to sit here and watch it again. And sometimes I look at it. Sometimes I don't really have the time or the capacity to look at it. So I just skip it, but I try to make sure that my friends know that I'm at least, participating or at least checking the stuff out. But to be honest, all of the stuff you can't watch and all of the stuff I don't want to watch. But, if you're getting it from group A, group B doesn't know that you got it from group A because group B is sending it, but we're all in the same algorithm. But even in saying all of that, I still try to make sure and maintain the fact that I don't allow that stuff to drain my social battery. When I would go out to my spot in Houston, one of the things that I love was that first and foremost, I'm in the spot by myself, right? So the family's not with me, but there would literally be times where I would come in and I would put my I would put my phone downstairs and I would go upstairs and I would leave my phone down, downstairs. And I probably wouldn't grab my phone again until it was time for me to go to bed. Or I would go upstairs, leave my phone upstairs and go downstairs and not worry about the phone. And so I think doing that, and I probably need to get back to doing that a little bit more, but it's something we talk about as far as like always being connected and everything like that. But also you have to be careful with that because again, it drains your social battery. Again, I'm one of the most fun people you want to be around. But I think we all have a certain amount of time where it's like, okay, all right, this is enough of this. Like, okay, let me move on. Or better yet, where you have to call it a day when it's like, okay, all right, well, let me just put this phone down because I don't need to look at it anymore today. Set your alarms for the next to wake up the next day, and that's it. You don't need to touch your phone again. But like I said, if you let it happen, and a lot of times it happens, I think, with us not really knowing. But if you allow it to happen, your social battery can be drained by your phone. And I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Don't let the people around you drain your social battery, because if you allow them to drain you, they will. And I think that's pretty evident. And when you look around people and you see the things that are going on, and you see people who kind of back away from the situation. And then there's some that run to the situation. But the ones that back away, they're backing away for a reason. It's because, the people closest to us sometimes can drain us. They can drain us socially. They can drain us emotionally. They can definitely drain us financially. But if you're talking about just on a social aspect, you can't allow people who are around you in your inner circle to drain you. And for the most part, those that do, if they drain your social battery, most of the times it's not intentional, right? Like, I don't think that they set out to do it. It just kind of happens. Case in point, and I talked about this on another podcast episode, but it's worth repeating. Like, if you have that one friend who is always complaining or always needing something, that's cool. But it can't be something where they're piling this on you day after day after day after day. At some point in time, you're going to either get tired of them, you're going to get tired of their situations, or you're going to get tired of everything surrounding it all. And a lot of people can't hold that back. And so it all comes out at once, right? And so that's not good in and of itself. So, don't allow people to drain you. Don't allow people to lower your social battery. The people around us, more often than not, you want them around you because they're your friends, they're your family. But at the same time, you have to be honest with them. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be honest about your time, and you have to be honest about your battery, because your battery is what fuels and propels you. And so as your battery's being drained socially, you know, some people take all of that in, and like I said, it's inside them. And then when it comes out, it's in the form of an argument, it's in the form of lashing out, it's in the form of them going off. And then, the people around you like, man, I can't believe Junebug went off. Well, probably because y'all been piling on Junebug for the last 3 weeks, and he's sick of everybody's shit. So it came out at one point, and everybody had to catch this smoke. It was either going to catch the smoke from Junebug or he's going to catch those hands. You make the pick. But I said all that to say this: your social battery is very important, but also knowing where you are with your battery is even more important, because ultimately you can control that. You are the person who makes the determination as to how you want to move forward with people or not move forward with them. It's your call. But don't let folks drain you. Don't let people drain you. Don't let your phone drain you. Don't let the news drain you. Don't let, the idea of being around people drain you, because if you allow it to happen, it will. And more often than not, a lot of this stuff happens and it's unbeknownst to everybody around you, because you're still the person that's around. You're still around. You're still smiling. You're still laughing. You're still joking. But the flip side of it is that they are really taking from you, and they're pulling that battery down. And like I said, when you think about your cell phone, we are quick to go and run and plug that cell phone once it gets under 20% or 2%. But we don't do the same for ourselves. And a lot of us need to be plugged back into something other than what's draining us socially. And so if that's not the case, then what we'll end up doing is overheating, just like your cell phone will. And ultimately, your battery, if your battery becomes drained, it just shuts down and shuts off. And socially, financially, emotionally, we can do the same. You don't want that. But that's bound to happen if you allow people to drain you. So take those words to head. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday and every Sunday. Also, don't forget to check out our new baby. It is called the Rap Soul Podcast. It is a music podcast for music lovers, particularly those who are fans of music, more specifically R&B and hip hop, rap, soul, from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. I'm going to tell you, it's the best music podcast that you've never heard. So make sure that you check it out. You can find it wherever you're listening and watching this podcast as well. Also, if you'd like to contribute to the podcast financially, hit us up. Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Also, we have merch. You can buy some 12 Kyle podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs by clicking the merch link. Check it out. We got it for the low. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Once again, I am your boy 12 Kyle. This has been another edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I will catch you guys next time. 5,000. Yeah.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.